episode of One Man's Opinion. Today I am reviewing Music Theater of Connecticut's production of The Legend of Georgia McBride, written by Matthew Lopez, directed by Kevin Connors, and running through March 3rd at Music Theater of Connecticut at 509 Westport Avenue in Norwalk, Connecticut. Help my show become legendary by becoming a patron on my Patreon page. For as little as $1 a month, you can help finance the show and my classic cinema podcast, Yesterday's Matinee. Also, until February 29th, Neo patrons and higher can enter a drawing to join me as my +1 to see Doubt on Broadway, just for being a continued supporter of my channel. Details are on the Patreon page. I'll leave a link in the description. The Legend of Georgia McBride is a good enough show. I've seen it at least 4 times now, and I get why theaters do productions of it. It's a single, reasonably sized set, a small cast of 5, and doesn't require any musicians aside from one character who plays guitar. It's an economically sensible production. But, me oh my, I don't need to see it more times than I've seen Thoughts of a Colored Man or Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. Seriously, go find a production of Thoughts of a Colored Man, one of the best new plays out in the last 3 years, with a small cast, very underrated. This is not saying that Music Theater of Connecticut's production is bad, or there is anything inherently wrong with the play. It's just that I'm tired of seeing it. I'd rather see something new or something less frequently produced over the past 5 years. The Legend of Georgia McBride is about a down-on-their-luck couple, Casey, played by Clint Hromsco, and Joe, played by Teagan La'Shay, living in Panama City Beach, Florida. Casey is a failing Elvis Presley impersonator who lip-syncs and dances to songs by the King in a second-rate bar. When his boss Eddie, played by Mikita, tells him the Elvis bit is over and he's bringing in a drag show starring Miss Tracy Mills, played by Saylor, and her friend anorexia nervosa, Rexy for short, played by Diva Lamarr, Casey does what he thinks is initially impossible. When Rexy passes out drunk, he goes on stage in drag to save the show under the moniker of the titular Georgia McBride. Lo and behold, the drag circuit is far more lucrative than playing Elvis in Florida. The only problem is he doesn't know how to tell his newly pregnant girlfriend, Joe, about his new gig. Georgia McBride is an overall light-hearted show with a genuine positive message of identity and acceptance. Though it does have several scenes in the second act of real drama, it never gets too bogged down and keeps the spirit of the show light and enjoyable. Connors keeps that spirit throughout the production. It's not as over-the-top as some of the other Georgia McBrides I've seen, particularly where Miss Tracy Mills is concerned, but Connors does something different, bringing more gravitas to the acting in the more serious scenes. Like I said, it never gets too bogged down by it, though. Much of the credit goes to Saylor, who feels more like a drag queen in their third 20 years of life than any other Miss Tracy Mills I've ever seen. And that's great. It gives the character a more wizened and world-weary quality. When Miss Tracy and Casey have their showdown with each other in the second act, Saylor nails the weight of Tracy's life experience. It's the best performance of that scene I've seen in the 4 productions I've attended. Connors, along with costume designer Diane Vanderkroef, has also developed with Mikita a more developed journey for Eddie, the owner of the bar, from a hopeless, grumpy bum of a club owner to a guy with some real swagger once things get good. It's a detail that other companies have missed, and I'm glad that this production has caught this. The aspects that I wish could have received more attention are Casey and Joe. Clint Hromsco doesn't come off enough as a bro at the beginning of the show, and needs that slight touch of toxic masculinity. The juxtaposition would have been nice as he learns to embrace drag culture. He does a good job evolving his performance as Georgia McBride. Each time Georgia comes out, each performance gets distinctly stronger, but I wanted a little more of that toxic masculinity at the beginning. Typically, I would endorse a female character being smarter than she's written, but Teagan La'Shay makes Joe almost too smart. La'Shay gives Joe a sharpness that makes me ask why Joe bothers with Casey's antics, because I don't find it realistic that she would. I wish there was a little more naivete in her portrayal of Joe, just to make it a little more believable that she would actually stick around for this guy. Now, I know that many of the songs that Tracy and Casey lip sync to are open to interpretation and can be pretty much anything the show producers want it to be, but for better or worse, Casey has to have some country numbers. It's in the dialogue when he and Tracy come up with his drag character. He says in the dialogue he can do various country artists. It's where he finds his character. is in that style of music. Narratively, it seems like it should be essential that at least one or two of the artists he names needs to be represented in the forthcoming montage. But Connors and the cast have decided to forgo that country theme for pop artists. Some may consider this a nitpick, but it's these details to me that make the difference in how a show comes together. April M. Bartlett's scenic design is perfect for the intimate MTC stage, utilizing its depth versus width in order to make the dressing room stage right feel like it has plenty of space for the characters to move around in. This production of The Legend of Georgia McBride is overall good, but it has a few missteps. Though not as flamboyant as past productions I've seen, Russell Saylor elevates the more dramatic moments of the play, but I feel the direction and performances of Casey and Joe slightly miss the mark. Yet it remains an overall enjoyable show, but I'm ready for theaters to take a break from it for a few years. But I am only one man's opinion, so be sure to leave yours in the comments below. If you'd like to see The Legend of Georgia McBride, I'll leave a link in the description where you can get tickets. Also in the description will be a link to my Patreon page, so please visit there to support my channel. You can also support my channel by liking, sharing, and subscribing, and click the notification bell to be alerted to future reviews. My next review will be a Contemporary Theater of Connecticut's production of $1 Million Quartet. Thank you for watching, and I will see you at the theater.